evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, September 27th, 2011. It's 5:05 p.m. We're at the Palm Coast Community Center for the regularly scheduled final budget hearing of the City of Palm Coast City Council. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City of Palm Coast proposes to levy a millage rate of 3.9900 mils. This is a decrease of 1.61% from the rollback rate of 4.0552. Oh, yeah, we forgot roll call. Let's do a roll call.
Mayor Nets.
Okay. Here.
Vice Mayor Meeker.
Here.
Councilmember DeStefano.
Here.
Councilmember Lewis.
Here.
Councilmember Mormon.
Here.
Mayor, all members are present.
We still propose to levy a millage rate of 3.9900 mils. This is a decrease of 1.61% from the rollback rate of 4.0552 mils. Mr. Landon, do you have any presentation for us?
I do not. Mr. Shorttimer does, but yeah, Ray Britt will make the presentation. I would like to make a couple of comments after Ray completes his presentation, however.
Mr. Britt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this is not just a two-slide presentation. It's not this in questions, but you're going to have to listen fast because I'm going to try and talk fast. Although I can't really talk fast.
You're not related to Reichman, are
No. Just a quick reminder, these are the presentations and workshops that we've had over the last 4 months. A couple of weeks ago on September 14th, you approved a tentative millage rate and budget. And tonight we will be proposing that you approve the final budget and millage rate. Just a reminder for everybody, the council adopts a millage rate, and then the council also approves the fund appropriations and the estimated revenues. Goals that were set early on in this process was to shift some revenues around, which we've done, diversify the stormwater funding, reestablish a millage rate for capital projects, which we did to go into the stormwater fund as part of that diversification. We wanted to lower the millage rate from the proposed rate, and we wanted to look at cutting additional expenditures in funds that were supported by property taxes without having a major impact on services. And then we did not want to establish any new taxes, and this budget accomplishes all of those. Millage rate, again, has gone up over the last 5 years by about 23%, but because of falling property values, the actual tax revenue that the city's collected over the last 5 years has gone down by about 23.5%. Existing taxpayers over that 5-year period have saved about $8.2 million in property taxes. When we started this process, there were quite a few different millage rates that were available for council. As those were, different ones were approved, like the proposed rate, we could not go higher than that. At the last meeting, you approved a tentative rate of 3.99, and that is now the maximum rate that you can approve tonight. Over the last 5 years also, our staffing has gone down by a net of about 27 positions, and that is inclusive of actually adding about 18 firefighter positions a couple of years ago. In the general fund, property tax revenues for next year will be about 1.7 million less than the current year revenue from property taxes. Other revenues will actually go up about $1.1 million, most of that being a transfer of gas tax and state revenue sharing money from the Streets Improvement Fund over to the general fund. But overall, the expenditures are going down in the general fund by about $635,000 less than what was budgeted for 2011. This is just a breakdown of the general fund expenditures. Again, just showing that we're less than budgeted. We're also less, or the proposed budget is less than what we estimate we're going to spend this year. In the enterprise funds, utility, again, about the same as what's estimated for this year, but it's over $1 million less than the budget was for 2011. These are some of the utility capital projects that are being proposed. Most of these are ongoing type capital projects. The one big one here is water treatment plant number 2, which is the zero liquid discharge project, which almost $2 million to be spent in 2012 and about $6 million in 2013. And this is just some more of the utility capital projects. Stormwater is going up a little bit in total budget, but we're focusing more on the capital and those types of things. And by bringing a lot of that stuff in-house, we've been able to actually do more at less cost. And these are the capital projects that are being proposed in the stormwater fund, the swale rehab, valley gutter replacements, pipe replacement, and then the control structure rehab. Just some other capital funds. This is the Streets Improvement Fund. We are transferring some of the gas tax and state revenue sharing out of here this year. The half-cent sales tax will be the primary revenue source in the Streets Improvement Fund. We are reducing the street paving and resurfacing project just because most of the streets have already been done. We're shifting some of that money down. At the very bottom there you see about $1 million for a bridge rehab, and then there's some other projects in there. Palm Coast Parkway, Old Kings Road extension, North Old Kings Road 4-laning, those are all primarily being funded by grants over the next few years. In the Capital Projects Fund, there's really no new revenue coming in here. We're not putting any tax dollars in here again this year. That'll be the second year that that's occurred. The big projects in here are the sidewalks and bike paths. And again, the biggest majority of that $4.7 million is coming from grant money. And to summarize, we have the general fund, we have the special revenue funds. I broke this up a little bit different. The special revenue funds are funds that have a specific revenue source going into them, and most of the time that revenue is restricted for a specific purpose, so that money is kept segregated from other monies. We have the Capital Projects Fund that we just saw the projects for. Enterprise funds, those are funds that are funded primarily by user fees. We do have a few in here, the Stormwater Management Fund that, again, this year we'll be getting, or in 2012, we'll be getting some of its money from property taxes and a transfer of some state revenue sharing money from the Streets Improvement Fund. The Tennis Center Fund is being proposed to receive about $99,000 from the general fund. And the Information Technology Fund does still get money from internal departments, but it does have external revenue sources also. And then the Internal Service Funds, the Fleet Management Fund does have a little bit of external revenue for fuel sales to other governmental entities. Total budget is $120,417,494. When we take out the interfund transfers and charges, which is just money moving from one fund to another, our net budget is just under $106 million. That's compared to a $176 million budget, or again, backing out the $50 million that was in last year for Old Kings Road, about 126. So we're actually seeing a net decrease of about $20 million in the budget for 2012 compared to 2011. Now, just to wrap everything up, I'm going to be taking the advice of another great philosopher. I do want to take just a minute to thank everybody for listening to all of my presentations for the last 4 months. Although they were at times long and often boring, nobody will ever convince me that they were as long and boring as some of that planning stuff that we are required to listen to. I do hope you found the presentations informative, somewhat educational, and above all, thought-provoking. And Mayor, with that completes the presentation for the 2012 budget.
Mr. Landon, you had a couple of comments you'd like to offer?
Yes, now you know why I wanted to have comments after Ray.
Rebuttal?
Yeah, I think by now most people know that Ray is retiring. He'll be here for a couple more weeks. But I think City Council and the rest of staff, I can say that we will miss Ray a great deal. And I really think you see the value of an individual that has a great deal of experience and very specific experience during these tough times. Ray was invaluable to the whole organization as far as coming up with alternatives, some innovative ideas as to how to deal with some of the financial difficulties that we've all had to struggle with. But I really don't think that that's really the legacy for Mr. Britt. I think the legacy is the financial strength of this organization. He was our original finance director, and we actually have had not as hard of a struggle. It's been a struggle for everybody, but I really think not as bad as a lot of other organizations because of the strong financial stability we had before we went into this economic downturn. And a lot of that has to do with Ray's experience and that he brought to Palm Coast and that he established here. Him and Mr. Kelton, Dick Kelton, previous city manager who had strong financial background, put together a great financial system, not just from a budgeting standpoint, but also the accounting and all the processes that we go through that are important. So I really think that here the tough times, Ray did a great job, but his real value to this organization was establishing a great financial system, and one that we now just our goal is to take it and keep running with it. So with that, Ray, I'd like to say personally thank you because you make the job a whole lot easier because of how important finances are for an organization, and you've been great to be able to lean on. So hope you enjoy yourself.
Council questions or comments? Mr. Meeker.
Just a comment for Ray as well. As I look back over the 56 years I've been running around on the planet, you know, there's a number of people that had a significant influence on my life, specifically 2 teachers in high school, you know, my mother and my father. And when I finally got onto city council, sitting down and listening to Ray Britt took a basic understanding of financial accounting and wizardry, you know, which is what he goes through all the time, and made it understandable for somebody like me, where I can now take it and present that information out to the public so they can understand it too. And believe me, at the meetings that I attend, when I go through my presentations, everything that comes out of there is the information I've gotten from Ray Britt, and it makes it understandable so that the people that are sitting there go, wow, I really didn't know that the city finances worked that way. I thought it was all one big pot of money and you were just sliding money around between. So Ray, I want to thank you personally for what you've done for me over the last number of years as well.
I just want to say thanks. Even though I tease you about the length of your presentation, they've been extremely informative, and I think what we did this year in advising the public at the business meetings have been really helpful. And enjoy your retirement. It won't last long, I know.
Mr. Lewis.
Ray, I'm not going to say enjoy your retirement, because I don't think you'll ever retire. You might stop doing this or stop doing that, but you'll be doing something else. You know, it's in you. But, you know, I've come across in my other life a lot of people in finance. Some had to retire forcefully. Some retired on their own. But I don't think I've ever met any who had the compassion and understanding of those of us who are financial nitwits. For you, it was sit down, let's talk about it. So it was always great sitting down with you, even though I didn't know what I was saying half the time. But you understood what I was trying to get to. So it's been a pleasure, and see you on the next turn.
Ray, I know this is an occupation, but you're going to go to an avocation right after this, because you're not going to stop. I know that. And it has been a pleasure. I wish I had met you before I was trying to deal with budgets at the federal and state level, because you make it so easy to understand and so simple. If I'd known what I know now at that level, my job would have been a lot easier, and I probably would have still had a full head of hair. Trying to deal on the federal level and on the state level. But it has been a true pleasure. You're a gentleman and a scholar, and Godspeed.
And knowing it doesn't help your hair.
Budget, hair, something about that.
Maybe if
Ray, I
you
just
don't-
want to add my words also. We've moved City Hall 5 times. I think Ray's probably moved 7 or 8 times from his crow's nest office there on the Whitteman Building, upstairs, downstairs in our current city offices. Ray, you must have an eidetic memory, because I will call you, I've called you at any number of times, said, Ray, I need something about, and he takes the time, and without a lot of effort, he gives me the answer off the top of his head. Halsey, you used one word that I think very aptly describes Ray, and that's gentleman. He has always been a gentleman. I suspect that there has been some times when your job has been frustrating. Dealing with staff and council has probably been frustrating. Dealing with the public has probably been frustrating at times, but I've never seen you anything other than a gentleman. I wish you all the very best, and good luck in whatever you do with your retirement or your temporary hiatus in employment, whichever it may be. At this time, I'd like to open the meeting from the public. Anyone from the public who wish to be heard on the proposed millage rate? Anyone wish to be heard? Seeing no one approach the podium, we'll close the public portion of the meeting, come back to council. Are there additional questions, comment, or is there a motion to approve the resolution that establishes the proposed millage rate at 3.9900?
I move to adopt.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries without objection. Now, the City of Palm Coast proposes to adopt a budget with total appropriated expenditures and reserves of $120,417,494.
In some odd sense.
Now, we rounded it off to the even dollar. Are there any council questions? Any from the public wish to be heard on the final budget approval?
Shoot her.
Luann wants more money in her portion of the budget. I know.
She didn't have enough this morning, okay? Bring her on up.
Seeing no one approach the podium, we're going to close the public portion of the meeting, come back to council, and we have a second resolution that we approve the budget with total appropriated expenditures and reserves $120,417,494. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries without objection. We'd like the city clerk to forward a copy of the resolution adopting the final millage rate to the property appraiser, tax collector, and the State of Florida Department of Revenue within the next 3 days.
Tell them you're busy.
Do it. All right. Brings us to the end of the meeting. Anyone from the public wish to be heard on any item not on today's agenda? No one approach the podium. We'll close the public portion of the meeting. Come back to Mr. Landon. Any final comments?
Just the long process, and I think that the fact that we don't have anybody here commenting is a real tribute to the fact that you all did a great job, and that you try to address the concerns of keeping the budget lower again this year, but also not impacting the service level to a great degree. So congratulations to you all. That's all I have.
My final comment is an admonition to council. Please do not, in the coming budget year, succumb to the temptation to spend money that's not budgeted.
Yes.
It's a toughie, but you gotta do it. Of course we will. Mr. Meeker,
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
meeting is adjourned. Thank you
Another
very
year of
much.
fun.
It's been a long road.